What is up, everybody? At Vortex, we love a lot of things around here, but two things that stand out are the military and dogs. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about both those things. And to help us do that, we have Mr. Chris Willingham from the U.S. War Dogs Association. Chris, man, you guys have just a really, really cool program. Oh, and actually, I'm gonna say this too. We've got a really cool promotion that we're gonna talk about later too. So we'll tease that up a little bit. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with U.S. War Dogs, and the organization itself, and what you guys are up to.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you very much for having us on and giving us a chance to kind of talk about the mission for U.S. War Dogs, and we truly appreciate this opportunity working with y'all in November. Myself, I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I served in the Marine Corps for 20 years. And for 17 of those years, I was in the military working dog program. So we've used canines in our military since World War II. And I was very blessed just to be part of that incredible canine family. And, every war they've had, you've kind of adjusted the capabilities of our dogs to meet the threats we're facing. And for me, serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, IEDs was the number one threat to coalition forces. And so I had a off-leash specialized search dog who was trained to search for explosives. And we would go out and walk patrol, and we would lead point and have the dog out in front of us searching and kind of leading the way as we would go to different objectives, and incredibly successful. And those dogs saved a lot of lives. And one of my biggest mentors and some of my biggest supporters and mentors during my time in the Marine Corps were Vietnam dog handlers. And one of those gentlemen was named Ron Aiello, who was the one of the founding members of U.S. War Dogs Association. He was also one of the first Marine Scout dogs to serve in Vietnam. And him, along with four other Vietnam dog handlers, they started U.S. War Dogs Association in 2000. And they were going to raise money to dedicate a statue to recognize the service and sacrifice of war dogs. And the next year, 9/11 happens. And then my generation, the team, started deploying Iraq and Afghanistan. And basically since then, it's turned into a life cycle of practical support. So in every program has been developed based off a conversation with dog handlers. So when they're active duty, we send care packages downrange. Just a couple months ago, we sent 170 care packages to K9 teams stationed worldwide. And I was on the receiving end of that in every one of my deployments. And so when the dog gets ready to retire, we have a military working dog service medal. Those have become more and more popular to have these dogs honored as they enter the retirement life. And more so for the handler. I mean, that handler gets a chance to really, put a kind of exclamation point on that dog's career. And speaking from experience, once your military working dog has passed away, anything you can have that kind of ties you to that dog just means the world to you. So there's been a big request for those here over the last couple of years. And then the biggest things in retirement, it's unfortunate. There's no public funding for our dogs, so we train them, we select them, we use them. And when the dog retires, the handler has the opportunity to adopt that dog thanks to the Robbie law that was established in 2000. But all the financial costs fall on the handler who adopted that dog. So that's where we come in. We're kind of like the VA for retired military working dogs. We cover all the prescription medications. We got about 1,000 dogs in our program right now. And we also cover emergency surgery. So if a dog has some type of an emergency that happens and that handler's about to be out of pocket $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, we cover that. And I think that if you're covering those kind of financial burdens, you're also taking care of both ends of the leash. We're taking care of that veteran handler as much as the dog. So just absolute blessing to be a part of that. It's a little bit of therapy for us who are used to be dog handlers to give back, and more than happy to be part of this program.
Man, it's just super cool and amazing and important work. And, I think of, how connected people get to, I guess, what I just call like a regular pet or your hunting dog or something like that. And I would have to imagine, and I can only imagine, but the connection between, a person, a handler and their military working dog is elevated even to another level beyond that. Real-time stuff. Before we got started, he said, hey, I might have to excuse myself and make a phone call. I mean, and, maybe describe that situation that you're dealing with right now with one of these military working dogs.
Just before we got on the call, I had an active duty handler who has adopted a retired military working dog he served with. Now he's still working in K9, but he's got this retired dog at home, and his dog had an emergency surgery They're actually at the vet clinic right now. And again, nobody joins the military to get rich. And so if he reached out, he's actually on our RX program. Dog's been on our RX program for the last 2 years. So we've been providing support for him. As soon as something like this happens, they reached out to us, and I'm just got the contact number right now for the emergency vet. We're going to call and help pay the bill for this individual so he doesn't have to worry about that. You just give the dog a good life. You give the dog a good retirement. And, again, there's no government funding for it, which there should be. We're going to take care of the cost for these dogs. So just more than happy to be able to provide that kind of support thanks to generous donors.
Man, those dogs and handlers, and I guess, kind of like in that retirement, they've earned it. They deserve that. And it's really cool that you guys are there to step in and provide that help and assistance and support. It's just really cool stuff. What, you made me think of something when you were talking about, the dogs that you worked with and that people are working with, finding IEDs. Like how far away can they find that and let you know that that's there before you get, close enough to be hurt by it?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So when you're first of all, you're hand selecting these dogs that have certain traits and characteristics, and they're working dogs. Like this is what they love to do. And what you're doing when you're out there on a patrol, for example, is it's a team effort. So I'm making sure that if I can identify anything that's got a potential danger area, and the mission has nothing to do with clearing that, like I'm just going to bypass and one of your best friends is route selection. Let me just make sure I'm selecting the safest route to get to the objective to handle business out there. So I'm not just sending my dog out to search any and everything. I'm being very selective. I'm being very smart about how I'm using the dog, but also like their capabilities are absolutely incredible and vital to saving lives on the battlefield. And what we teach, like anybody can watch a dog sit. Typically you see a dog sit, they put their butt down, and that's an indication that the dog has identified a target odor they've been trained on. What you go to canine school for is everything just left of that, is when you start seeing that change of behavior in your dog's baseline of searching, that's what you're trained to pick up on to where you don't even wait for that dog to go to a final response, what we call it. So if I see my dog searching, like my dog's first find in Iraq, she started searching up this roadway toward a choke point. I see her baseline. I know what she's searching. I know how she's searching. And when she starts getting to an explosive odor that was there, it was about 30 pounds of homemade explosive buried in a choke point. More intense sniffing, tail starts wagging, and she starts getting a little more detail in it. I see enough of that. I've been paying attention to the wind. I pull my dog back, notify EOD. We get to a safe distance, and you would try to get as much evidence as you could because that's going to help you fight the next fight. So we all got at a safe distance, and at this time, we just started seeing homemade explosives in Iraq. And so they go up and they take a water charge and they take the top level of dirt off. And so they usually exposes what you're dealing with. Well, being homemade explosive, the whole thing detonated. Again, everybody's at a safe distance, but it left a crater that was about 5 foot deep and 10 foot wide that we're about to walk through. But thanks to the capabilities of the dog, we went home that day. And Luca, the dog I served with, led over 400 patrols on 3 combat deployments, and no one was injured when she was walking point. That just kind of is a testament to what these dogs bring to the battlefield.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if reality check is like the right word for it. Like I said, I cannot, I've never been in a situation like that. But just to see, the destruction of what happened there and like really what could have been, it's like, yeah, I mean, just the admiration and appreciation for those dogs and the amazing work they can do is just, it's pretty incredible.
She got some steak that night at the chow hall. That was her first find, and that was such a moment of validation. And we put so much work into these dogs, and you truly treat them like a Marine, like that's your teammate. And I thought I had a great bond with Luca before I deployed. But when you deploy with a dog and you're with them 7 days a week, wherever you're sleeping, you're sleeping. Like if it's under the stars, they're right beside you. Like you truly, there's a synergy that happens between that dog and that handler, and you become such a cohesive working unit. It's tough to beat. Like we started getting by name requests to go out on missions because of her capabilities. I'm a Marine from Alabama. She was a smart end of the leash. So I had no problem. My call sign was Luca. Like it was all about the dog. Like they were like, "What's up, Luca?" I'm like, "What's your name again?" Like I don't take offense to that. It's all about the dog, but incredible capability they bring to the battlefield. And then there was like a second, like unofficial mission we had was in between patrols, especially when you have bad days and stuff, like just to have a dog there, a little piece of home in a bad situation, just you would just see a dog like that lift morale, just to have the dog around and just to let someone who's had a stressful couple of days, firefights and stuff, just to pet on a dog a little bit. Like it really did stuff for mental health over there. So it was just incredible program to be a part of. And I'm, now to be part of U.S. War Dogs, where we're extending that care after retirement, being part of a nonprofit world, like it's therapy for me, man. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. I mean, I was listening to, I think it was a different podcast, but they are saying that, and I truly believe this, but I mean, dogs, they're, like you said, they're so great for mental health. They're great for stress relief. And what they're saying, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the essence of it was like when you pet a dog, like it releases something in your brain that you find very comforting. But the same thing releases in the dog, which I think is like a really cool bond that people and dogs have.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And it's amazing how much they tie into your emotions. Like when I'm kitting up, my dog knows it's go time. Like you can see the dogs change. Like from they were just petting her, I put her harness on. That means no more petting. I put my gear on, and you could see the temperament change. And the same thing, like I unfortunately lost a guy over there. It was another dog handler on a separate mission, and we lived in the same tent and had to go back to that empty tent where all his gear still was. And that's when I finally had a chance, like a few days later, and it all hit me, and I kind of broke down. And Luca was laying across the tent, saw me having a tough time, and she came over there and put her head on my leg and just knew I needed some comfort in that time where I can't really show it when the mission continues. Well, I finally had a chance to decompress for a minute, and I didn't have a mission, and it was tough, but the dog, Luca, was there for me during some of my toughest times in the Marine Corps. And after she retired, I adopted her, and still going through some things I was going through post-deployment. She saved my life more than one way. I'll put it that way. Incredible dogs, like what they do for us.
I believe it, man. I believe it. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's they're pretty special animals. There's no doubt about that, and just in a variety of just incredibly important ways. And I mean, like you're their pack, right? And they're your pack. I mean, I think they truly it's a bond that's difficult to describe, but you've done a really awesome job doing that. What are some other military working dog roles that we see filled? Like what does it does it run the gamut? Is it pretty specialized into like what we were talking about before, or are there all types of military working dogs?
That's a great question. So, like I said, a big part of it is just you're adapting to what the conflict you're facing, the threats you're facing overseas. So, like in World War II, they had messenger dogs, and that was one dog that had two handlers, and they could put a little capsule on their leash or their collar, and that dog would go from the front lines back to where a headquarters element was to make tactical decisions based off the information they're receiving from that dog. Like pretty incredible, because a lot of times comms would go down, but those dogs were very trustworthy to be able to carry information back and forth, just a few hundred meters, but that was critical information to be passed from the front lines to the ones who were making the overall bigger decisions for strategic movement of the troops. And then you see like combat, like tracking dogs. They were big in Vietnam, and our first dogs we used in Iraq and Afghanistan for combat trackers, we brought that program back, and some of the first instructors were Vietnam dog handlers passing on lessons learned. And they were in the jungles and we were in the deserts. Some of the basic principles of handling a tracking dog still applied. And we had to take that and kind of mesh it into what we were facing. But the principles were still the same. And so to learn from guys who'd already done it, because nobody had used dogs, combat dogs or tracking dogs in combat since then. So to be able to hear their stories and hear some really telltale signs of like it's kept some of our dudes alive, like to hear from those guys. So it's a great kind of brotherhood. If you no matter what branch of service you serve, if you held a leash, it transcends all branches of service and generations. And so for us, the the bread and butter we had since the end of Vietnam was a dual purpose dog. So they had the ability to find explosives and they had apprehension work. So it was more of a law enforcement role. So they could have, bite work for searching an area for an individual, a suspect, go into a building looking for a suspect. We also use that in the battlefield. We just kind of changed how we used it based off of the threats we're facing. We developed 2 programs besides the combat tracking dog program was one of them. And the other one was a specialized search dog. So that's an off leash program. Well, that's what I was a part of, where you actually have the dog going out just looking for explosives, but it was pretty high end. Some of the stuff we're able to do. Like I was able to put a radio harness on my dog's back and doing nighttime missions. I would have a push to talk and I could talk to my dog through a radio, looking forward, looking left, right. And she had an infrared chem light on her back, on her harness. And I had NVG so I could watch her, give her commands. Just to give you one example of that, we would helicopter in midnight. We had to go hit this objective. I would be like 2 or 3 men. I had my dog on leash because we were in a pretty nasty area. Not a big IED threat because we just took, like I said, route selection. We just took a terrible area to get there. We get close to it. Now you're starting to get to more of a high threat area. I would get up front, take my dog off leash, and I would have her out there searching in front of us. And we'd search our way up to the compound. We'd stop like 30, 40 yards from it, take cover, and I could send my dog up, and you could barely hear me, looking forward, left, right. And she would search our breach point. Hey, I got nothing. We go up, we go hit the house, wrap everybody up, like, and take, handle business from there. But it was an incredible asset to have on the battlefield.
Man, that is amazing. Like I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, for you to be able to give those commands, like you're right there, but not be right there, and also, not be like, with some of like the pheasant dogs that I've hunted around where people spend more time yelling at their dog than shooting birds. But yeah, a little bit more, I guess I'd say covert, the way you're doing that, which is probably a good thing. It's what it takes. You don't want to be probably announcing your presence. No, man, that's it's just really cool to hear how, just the work that you've done, how, amazingly special and smart and just effective these dogs that ultimately get selected for this work are, and the bond that you guys have with the dog, and the legacy of military working dogs and their handlers, and that brotherhood, and passing that down, in some ways generationally, and building on the knowledge of the previous generation. It's really neat stuff, man. It's a cool story. I really like it.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, man. It just I think just to drive 2 of those points home is Ron Aiello, the president, the longtime president of U.S. War Dogs. He went to a reunion. Now this is probably 20, 30 years ago. He went to a reunion and they had World War II dog handlers there. He went in and sat in with them, and the stuff that they were saying, he could relate to. So the same things you're talking about in the island hopping campaigns or over in the European theater, he could relate to from the being in the jungles of Vietnam, because K9 was K9. Like, long as you held a leash, like the principles applied the same. You just had to tailor it based off of the area you're in. And then the same thing, me being able to listen to him operating in Vietnam, like I could relate to that. Like, so it's a pretty special and very unique career field. And the other thing I was going to say is just to kind of drive home, like the capabilities they have. They had this task force, Joint IED Defeat Organization, and their job in the beginning of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan was find the best way to counter the IED threat. And $19 billion, and 6 years later, they found the best way was a well-trained dog team. They tried robots and machines and drone, all this kind of fancy technology. And at the end of the day, they could not beat a well-trained dog team. That's what it came down to, is a dog and his handler was the best opportunity to go out there and defeat the IED threat.
Dude,
that's incredible.
I love it. That's just so cool to hear. And like you said, it exemplifies the capabilities of these dogs and their handlers. It's like you can't, you can throw billions of dollars at it, and you're not going to beat a good dog and a good handler.
100%. Yes, sir.
I love it. Well, we should probably talk about the promotion that we have going on,
yes,
which I think is pretty cool. Like I said, at Vortex, we love dogs. And if you don't know, we've got a couple really cool dog collars for sale on the website. One is, I guess I'd call it our more standard one, and then we have a waterproof version as well. But for the month of November, Chris, what do we got going on there?
We're going to be, as we're selling the collars, the proceeds will be coming to U.S. War Dogs to help support our mission. Like I said, we're a nonprofit. I'm a volunteer. The rest of our team members are volunteers. And so everything that we receive from this this event in November is all going to go support the mission. And everything I just talked about, the dogs that are on our program, the 1,000 dogs that are receiving our medical care, we pay one bill a month, and sometimes it's $15,000 to cover all the medications for the dog, $5,000 or $6,000 a drop for like these emergency surgeries. But anything that comes from this event is going to go straight to the core mission to support our military working dogs in retirement.
I love it. I love it. U.S. War Dogs, an incredibly important organization doing incredibly important work. We thank you guys for everything that you're doing. And like I said, for the month of November 2023, all proceeds from the sales of our dog collars, they're going to you guys, and we're more than happy to do that. I mean, that's I mean, it's I guess, I can't really say anything, but we're more than happy to do that. You guys are just doing some really important, neat stuff. So,
man, we truly appreciate it. Like, this is a incredible opportunity, and just going through this process leading up to this point right now, like, our team's like super thrilled to be working with you all, and just looking forward to November. I mean, a great month to do it, obviously, with Veterans Day in the middle of it. So we're looking forward to pushing on our end and looking forward to getting a lot of good support for it. But just thank you all very much for giving us opportunity to be able to get some support from you and your incredible listeners and your customers, and looking forward to seeing how it all turns out.
Awesome. Well, everybody out there, if you have a hunting dog or a dog, house dog, whatever kind of dog you have, get some new bling and support these guys because we should. There we go. There you have it. So, Chris, thank you so much. Really cool to chat with you and hear about the org and the dogs and your guys' work. Just super neat stuff. So thanks for taking the time to join us.
Yes, sir. And if they want to check out more on the website, it's uswardogs.org. And thank you very much for your time. And K9 leads the way.
Perfect. I love it, man. Thanks for doing that. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Until next time, happy hunting, shooting. Buy a dog collar. We'll catch you on the next one.